Here we go, episode 105 of the Hardline Sports Talk. Michael Merlo, John Michael Masiri here with you, and this is our 2023-2024 NFL prediction show. JM, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's the best show of the year.
Very excited. I mean, like, very excited.
Big announcement also. New pick segment for the 2023 NFL season.
Yes.
So what we're going to be doing is we'll have your normal podcast like we always do. And then on Saturdays, we will be releasing a, let's say 15 to 20 minute. We'll see how it goes. Pick segment. Going over our picks for that week. And we'll do our 3-star picks. You know, might add a little twist to it. We'll see what happens.
Definitely going to be a punishment of some sort. The loser's going to have to do something.
Yeah.
So
he thinks of the punishment the year after he loses, of course.
Well, it was a test run.
Right.
Last year was a test run.
Test. Just 18 weeks, just scot-free, no problem.
Right. Now we're ready to go.
Now it counts.
And he's going to get destroyed this year anyway.
Yeah,
so
right.
not even worried about that a little bit. But
we would have Merlo say if you have a gambling problem, but he is the one with the gambling problem.
Wow, that was aggressive.
So I can't.
That was aggressive.
You can't really say anything.
Listen, there's college football on tonight. I don't even have money on it tonight.
Yeah. Well, listen. What did I ask you to do tomorrow? I said let's watch college football.
Yeah.
And bet on it. So
we're gonna sit down, have a few beverages, and watch some college football. Nothing wrong with that.
It's the simple pleasures.
Right. Exactly.
But we're not talking about college football.
No, we're not. Although I could give you some picks in college football if you want, but
that's for another day.
That's another day. Right now, we are going to start with our NFL predictions. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give you, how we think each division is going to go. We'll run it off. We'll talk about the division for a little bit. If there's, some differences, we'll argue about that. But otherwise, just running through the divisions. We'll give you seeds in the playoffs. We'll give you our Final Four and our Super Bowl. And then, of course, awards. Awards definitely can get a little kinky, throw some things out there that might not happen, could happen. And listen, by the way, before we start, they're running a commercial, right? Yeah. That is about the script, script reading, the reading. Yeah. Okay. Like that's how unpredictable the NFL is. It almost feels fake. Right. So we went into these predictions trying to be different, right? Not outrageous, not where we can't back it up, but we're trying to be a little different. Right. So I'm very excited to see what we both have.
And we are killing it with the Jersey game today.
Yes.
Just really nice. I will compliment your team's throwback jerseys. I love a nice Giants throwback.
Well, you don't like my team's jersey. I dislike your team's jerseys, but they did a great job.
Love the throwbacks.
With the throwbacks. Yes. The throwbacks are very nice.
But I don't have the Giants, it's got a classic look to it, the regular jerseys. It's a little plain. But at the same time, I also don't like my team's jersey. I don't like the Jets. The white, I like. The black, I like. The green, I think is gross.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Jets jerseys at all. But that doesn't matter. We're not ranking jerseys here, okay? We're ranking, to start, the AFC East. JM, this is your division. This is where your team plays. I will let you start.
So when I first started making these rankings, I was like, all right, I'm not going to go crazy with the Jets. I'm not going to be stupidly optimistic and everything like that. But then I was going through the schedule like we did last week, and I was thinking about it, and I really think the sky is the limit for this team. I mean, anytime you pair a Hall of Fame quarterback with a top 5 defense, that's a recipe for some fantastic success. Yes. We saw what it did for Tom Brady his whole career. We saw what it did for him when he went to Tampa Bay. Granted, he had some great weapons on the offense too, not to knock that offense by any means, but that defense was great. And listen, I think when you pair a quarterback like a Matt Stafford situation, a Tom Brady situation, when you pair a guy like Aaron Rodgers with a good roster like this, the sky's the limit. So my AFC rankings, AFC East. My AFC East rankings: New York Jets 12-5, Buffalo Bills 12-5. Tiebreaker goes to the Jets. Miami Dolphins 8-9, and New England Patriots 6-11.
I'm not giving you records here.
You're not giving me records.
Not giving you records because it's way too difficult.
Didn't you do the whole schedule thing though?
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely some differences. I'm not going to give records. You can give records if you want. I'm not. I think
the people want records.
I'm not giving records.
Okay,
but we got some major differences in this division. So I'll read mine and then we'll go. Okay, so coming in first place, I've got the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
Coming in second place, I have your New York Jets. Okay. Coming in third, the Buffalo Bills. And finaling it out, the New England Patriots, who, by the way, just picked up Jalen Reagor watch out.
So
okay?
I know you can't give me records, but like, what does a first place Miami Dolphins record look like?
I have them. When I went through the schedule predictor, I had it about 11-6, tied with the Jets, and a tiebreaker went to the Dolphins.
And so the Bills are what, like a 9-win team? You're saying?
I had the Bills as a 9-win team.
Wow. Okay.
And
Listen,
we'll get to the Bills in a little bit.
Right. We talked about the Bills. We said maybe that they're going to take a little bit of a step back this year, and I guess I'm forecasting that for them. I'm not sure off the top of my head what their record was last year. I want to say 13-4, but 12-5. It's a one-game step back, but obviously they're not winning the division here, and I see the step back a little bit with the Bills, but Josh Allen's Josh Allen. Like, I think that their defense will be good enough, and Josh Allen will be Josh Allen, and they'll still definitely be a playoff team.
Yeah, I like the defense. They've dealt with a ton of injuries, especially in the secondary. And it's not just last season. It's been the last few seasons where they've dealt with injuries in that secondary. They're going to be dealing with injuries up front on the defensive line to start. Von Miller's not going to play the first 4 games, right? And listen, another year older, another big injury. How is he going to come back from that? My major concern with this team, and the reason why I have them missing the playoffs, is because I believe the offensive line is very shaky. Okay. And when you have a shaky offensive line mixed with a quarterback that, frankly, was their entire team last season, like, did way too much. And listen, Josh Allen last year got very careless with the football late in games. He had bad turnovers, and I'm not even going to put the blame on him. Right. Like, I really believe that there was too much on his shoulders last season. Yes, you're a star quarterback. Yes, you're being paid to do that, but Josh Allen cannot have what is it, 82% of the yards, came from him. Yeah. That cannot happen. Okay, there's no running game whatsoever. The offensive line is not improved. James Cook, do we trust Cook?
Right. I am a little bit optimistic for James Cook. I think that they like him a lot. I see him as maybe a bit of more of a pass catcher. Like, they don't have that bell cow guy you give the ball, which is why I thought that you would hear their name like crazy about Jonathan Taylor, but that seems to, that whole situation now really seems like it's going down the gutter. But we know that they tried to make a move for McCaffrey last year. We've heard them in rumors about other running backs before. It doesn't seem to be happening. So how's that running game going to look? Like you said, that whole 81% or whatever it is that Josh Allen accounted for the Bills' offensive yards last year, he plays a little bit of running back for them, and that's good for right now, but what is that going to mean for his career?
Yeah, I'm not loving this team. You talk about coaching staff. We talked about how important coaching staffs are. They lost Brian Daboll, their offensive coordinator. Josh Allen had his best seasons under Daboll, and last season with Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator, they were less efficient on offense last season. That plays a part. They fired their defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier. Now you have McDermott calling the defensive plays. McDermott's under a ton of pressure as well this season.
Right.
So I think there's way too many question marks. There's a lot of pressure on this team. I love the Bills. They're like my second favorite team, but this is how I feel about them.
But this is obviously like the Bills had their little phase of that up-and-coming team, like we saw with the Bengals, where they came out of nowhere and they had a lot of likable guys, and they played an exciting style of football, and you kind of rooted for them. But now they're kind of like, all right, we know they're good. They've been good for a while. Now they got to go out and do something. Exactly. Go finish it. They haven't even appeared. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have they even gone to the AFC Championship yet? One time?
Once.
One time.
They lost once to the Chiefs.
Right. I got to challenge you on this whole Dolphins thing.
Yeah, let's go.
I think Dolphins, I could see them making the playoffs. Division, to me, I see some people out there picking it. I think Chris Sims and Mike Florio, who I usually listen to on mute, but they had the Dolphins winning the division. I don't see it. I get the offense. I don't see it.
Defense is scary good. They're scary.
It's not scary. Sneaky
no,
good.
That's what I meant to say. Sorry,
okay.
I didn't mean scary.
No, not scary.
Sneaky good.
Okay.
And you're going to get Ramsey back at towards the end of the season, right? Bradley Chubb, who was a midseason pickup. I like Bradley Chubb a lot. Christian Wilkins, one of my favorite interior defensive linemen. Xavier Howard, he's there. I trust this defense. I trust Vic Fangio, who is the highest paid defensive coordinator, I think, in the league now, to go along with, by the way, and I am guilty of this too, Mike McDaniel is a very good head coach. It's sneaky. It snuck up on me. I think so. You go
let's
to
give it
Buffalo.
Let's give it a little more. Like
You go to Buffalo with a third-string quarterback and almost win that game in Buffalo last year.
Right.
Come on. Slips
Agreed.
my mind.
He had a very nice season. But one thing I would say is we've seen this before with these hot shot offensive-minded head coaches that get off to an early start in their career, and then it could kind of go down the drain. Cliff Kingsbury. So let's just take it a little easy with the Mike. I respect the guy. I think he did a phenomenal job of flipping that offense. He really got the potential out of that offense that you could have gotten last year. He took a great approach where he just said, put speed everywhere. I mean, you have Waddle and Hill on the outside. Raheem Mostert's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. So they did a good job at that, but let's see what happens here.
Obviously, you talk about the offense. I love McDaniel.
Ramsey's injury, like that was supposed to be their
it's big
acquisition.
It's big.
And their defense was not that very good last year, and that was supposed to shore up the defense a little bit. And I think Xavier Howard's one of the more overrated corners in football. So I could see this defense being like the 20th best defense in the NFL, and I don't think that wins you the division, especially in this division.
The offense is, obviously, we talked about, that offense is scary, right? We talked about the speed on the outside. You mentioned Mostert, who, if he's healthy, he's a great running back. Not great running back, great speed from the running back position. They'll run the ball enough, right? I don't love the running game. I'm not obsessed with the offensive line, but they'll run the ball enough because of how explosive they are on the outside, where they'll be able to do what they have to do there. That's how I feel about the Dolphins. I think they're a mismatch nightmare for a lot of teams.
18th ranked defense last year. Yards. Did it get better? Ramsey, it did.
They're going to get better at the end of the year.
We'll see.
I'm feeling Tua, second year in the offense.
All right.
Tua stays healthy.
We'll come back here in 4 months, I guess.
Tua was banged up last year.
I had them 8-9, so I have them missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
And I'm sorry, I hate to rag on guys for injuries and predict injuries and stuff like that, but Tua is a ticking time bomb right now.
He is, but like you said, I'm trying to, almost try and predict injuries in fantasy football right now.
Right.
You can't predict injuries. It's almost impossible to do so.
Agreed. And the Patriots are the Patriots.
Yeah, your Jets now.
Right.
Let me talk about your Jets before you go. The offensive line still scares me, right? I'm not, I still think they're an 11-6 team. I think if the offensive line was like a sure offensive line, I think they would be the easiest, in my opinion, Super Bowl team out of any. You know how we've seen like the Staffords, like you mentioned, Brady, Wilson going over to good, solid rosters. I think they would have been the best roster overall with Rodgers if the offensive line was a little bit shored up. I still think it's a really good team. I still think they're very scary in the postseason. And the reason is, like you mentioned, the defense. The defense is just so good.
Yep.
And the offense can take, some time to get going. That defense is going to keep them in games early on in the season. So, for me, they're an easy playoff team. The weapons on the outside. Obviously, Wilson's he's already a star. He's going to turn into a superstar. As everybody predicts, Lazard comes over from Green Bay with Rodgers. We like him. I got nothing but good things to say about the Jets other than that offensive line. And, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the coach, so we'll see how that goes.
I don't get that at all.
Not a fan of Salah.
But
Tony Soprano.
That was cool. Come on, that was pretty cool.
He is so crazy.
That was a fantastic Hard Knocks episode. I will say, episode 3 disappointed me. 4 was like
I didn't even finish 3. That's
really
how bored
good.
I was.
Yeah, 3 was boring.
He's cringe in these.
I don't get
in these
why
episodes.
He's
cringe.
Why is he cringe? Because he's not screaming.
His motivational speaking.
Right. Okay.
They were talking. I guess I forget where they were talking, and he goes to Quinnen Williams. He goes, "The big guy's playing. The big guy's even playing next week." The big guy meaning he goes 8. And he's like, yeah, 8's playing. I'm like, it's like the big guy. You're calling him the big guy, bro. First of all,
Quinnen, Aaron Rodgers, our new quarterback, is going to play next week. Does that excite you? Is that what you want him to say instead?
8's playing.
Right.
The quarterback's playing. That's what I would have liked to hear. Not the big guy's playing. And the way he said it, I'm weirded out by him. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
We'll
see how he coaches. We'll see how he coaches.
He did take the worst defense in the NFL, and they were top 5 last year. But
I
nobody wants to talk about that for only offense. You got to just do something on the offense. Nobody cares about the defense.
I love a defensive coordinator. I love. How do you pronounce it?
Jeff Ulbrich. Yep.
I love Ulbrich.
Yep.
Really good.
So, Patriots are the Patriots. Bailey Zappi, by the way, I will give Bill Belichick credit. He waived Bailey Zappi as a show of confidence in Mac Jones.
Right.
What will that do for Mac Jones? I think nothing.
Brought him back on the practice squad, though. Very excited for Zappi. You know I love
Probably
Zappi.
will still see him in a game this year.
You think?
I'd take those betting odds.
Only if Jones goes down.
I don't think so.
Like me some Mac Jones.
I think his performance is going to go down.
But yeah, this team, not very good. No speed on the outside. They'll run the ball, and they'll play some decent defense, but that's about it.
They'll win 7 games or whatever they will.
You can't win in the NFL like that, and Bill's trying to go back to the future, back in time, excuse me. Time to move on to the best division in the league.
Yep.
Yes.
I am very excited for this division right now.
So am I. The AFC North, and again, I just mentioned it. Like, you could talk about the AFC East. You want to even mention the NFC East as one of the better divisions? No. Doesn't touch what the AFC North has. JM, I'll start with you again.
All right. I'm going to give records again because I did my records, and I want to talk about my records.
I like the records in this one, so I'll do it.
First place, the Baltimore Ravens at 13-4. Wow. I have the Cincinnati Bengals at second, also at 13-4. Pittsburgh Steelers, third place, 10-7, and Cleveland Browns, last place, 8-9.
Alrighty. I've got the Baltimore Ravens in first at 12-5. Cincinnati Bengals in second at 11-6. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7 at third place. And fourth place, the 9-8 Cleveland Browns.
Everybody with a winning record. I like it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of differences there. No. We have the same win total for the Steelers. I have one more. How many wins did you give the Ravens?
12.
I gave the Ravens 13. I gave 2 more wins for the Bengals, but we got the same order here.
Yeah.
And we're both picking the Ravens to win the division.
I love the Ravens.
Yeah.
I mean, obsessed with the Ravens this year. You're going to hear this a lot when I'm talking about the good teams. Offensive line, coach, quarterback, defensive front. Do you have those qualities in your team? Because if you do, you're going to be high in the rankings for me.
Right.
And should be for everybody because those are very important traits to have to be a good football team. Yep. Ravens check all of those boxes.
They do. And I think that the sky's the limit for this offense this year. I think you're going to see a completely different offense. We've kind of been talking about that all offseason long. We talk about the Ravens. Todd Monken's coming over.
Yep.
And Todd Monken does not have any sort of similar philosophy to the Ravens offense in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Lamar air it out. Lamar's even said he's going to air it out. Listen, that could go downhill for the Ravens. You never know. Like, how will Lamar do as completely airing it out? But we've seen this guy win an MVP before. He can make plays with his legs. We know how athletic he is. They've improved the weapons on the outside. Mark Andrews is one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the league, one of the best overall tight ends in the league, top 3 tight end in the league. So I think the sky's the limit for this. I think this offense, I'm not going to say it has number 1 potential, but it has damn near close to
I think it has number 1 potential. And you mentioned Andrews, who's, the second best tight end, maybe third, whatever it is, top 3 tight end in the league. You add Zay Flowers, who's looked fantastic in training camp so far this season. Yep. Odell Beckham Jr.'s here. And again, you can't sign Odell to be a 1. He's not a 1 anymore. But if Odell can be that number 2, 3 guy on your team, he can be dangerous. He can be a
good 2 and a very good 3.
Right. And I think if you add the tight end to the mix, he's probably the 3. I think Flowers
exactly.
is the 2.
And Mark Andrews is like, that's what we talk about. We'll talk about that with the Giants. We'll talk about that with the Chiefs. It's like, sure, you don't have the number 1 receiver, but your tight end's your number 1. And that's all right. I mean, the Chiefs, granted, they have Patrick Mahomes, but they won a freaking Super Bowl without a number 1.
Yeah. They're going to be just scary on offense, and we know how good they are on defense.
Right.
They're always good on defense.
Yep.
And
I know you love Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh.
I love
you John love
Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh.
I love John Harbaugh. I don't have to explain why I love him. He's a great coach.
He was pissed about the Commanders thing. The Commanders playing like all their starters for like 3 quarters, basically. Just
really?
To get. I mean, it wasn't that long, but he was a little ticked off.
Did they do that? They played him that long?
Yeah, and then they played it off like they would didn't care about the streak and everything like that.
Well, maybe it's a good thing the streak ended because they haven't won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
During the streak,
yeah,
so maybe
they'll
win a Super Bowl now during the streak. All right, Cincinnati Bengals. We had them not winning the division.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with the Bengals here. I mean, the schedule's first place schedule, right? Burrow is. I don't think Burrow came back in practice yesterday.
Yep.
I don't think the injury is going to be really a concern, but I have them taking a little bit of a step back, and I don't think it's just because of them. I think it's because the Ravens are, right now and starting the season are healthy and they've improved their team enough.
Right. I mean, this is us a little bit taking the sexier pick with the Ravens. Yeah. I mean, if we sit up here and tell you the Bengals are going to win the division, not really. We're not going to get excited about that. You guys aren't going to get excited about that, but we're giving you our genuine feelings for how the season's going to go, and I do genuinely think that the Ravens are a slightly better football team than the Cincinnati Bengals, and these might be the two best teams in the AFC. Like, that does not say anything. Like, I have the Baltimore Ravens winning 13 games, and I have the Bengals winning 13 games. It's coming down to a tiebreaker. So we know how good Burrow is. We know how good this offense is. There was rumors over the offseason that T. Higgins was going to get moved. He's still here. I still think there's a chance that he ends up a Bengal for the majority of his career.
I don't think so?
I don't think it's just this is his last year. He's going to walk. Sure, he's going to get offered some big money. Who knows? Franchise tag. What's going to go on with that?
I think they move him.
I think that him and Jamar Chase are like the perfect complement to each other, and they're the best friends for Joe Burrow. I mean,
it's not that it doesn't work. I think it's
a financial situation.
It's a financial decision.
Of course. But we know how the NFL works now with restructuring, and it always seems like you get to find a little salary cap. So
they got cheap owners.
I think they do. Correct.
Was the Brown family, I think. They're not wealthy. I mean, this is their business. Yeah. I mean, they're wealthy, but in terms of NFL owner, they're not that wealthy.
One thing I do want to say about the Bengals, though, is I know I have them finishing in second place, but I'm going to defend them a little bit here right now. Everybody loves to talk about Joe Burrow and about Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon and T. Higgins and all those guys. That defense is a tough defense. Yeah. It's an underrated defense. It doesn't have superstars everywhere like some of these other defenses that we see, like the Eagles and the Niners. It doesn't have superstars all over the place, but they got some really good ball players. Trey Hendrickson, a guy who's been underrated basically his whole career.
Yeah.
Logan Wilson, good player. They've got some good players in the secondary. So I like DJ Reader, great defensive tackle. I like this Bengals defense, and that's why I'm still high on them. I got them winning 13 games.
All right, let's move on to the Steelers here, who I think are a big-time wild card in the entire mix in terms of the AFC. I had them with 10 wins, and this is a team that sneaks into the playoffs for me. That's a little preview. Mm-hmm. The defense is absolutely loaded. I mean, T.J. Watt leading the charge there. They're a very good defense. Mike Tomlin, very good defensive coach. They drafted the tackle from Tennessee, I believe, when they traded up with the Patriots. They're improving the offensive line. Is he from Tennessee, or was that the guy
Alabama.
the Bears traded?
I thought he was from Alabama.
I'll look in a minute.
Yeah.
I don't think Bama. The guy that the Bears drafted might be from Tennessee. Either way, they drafted a tackle at 14.
Broderick Jones. Let's see.
I really, obviously, you talk about the defense. I'm excited about the offensive weapons on this team, and it just seems like the Steelers are able to draft wide receivers incredibly well.
Both of us were wrong. Georgia, by the way.
Georgia, there we go. They draft wide receivers very well.
They do.
George Pickens looks like he's going to be a stud. I mean, I think he's their number one wide receiver.
I was about to say I do not. I think that Deontay Johnson is due for an underrated, really good season.
Really?
I think he might step up as a top, 15 receiver in the NFL this year.
Well, either way, these are good things for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you mentioned Deontay Johnson. That's two legit wide receivers they have right there. Pat Fryermuth, a tight end. For a young quarterback, that's a best friend.
And a guy who's going into his third year in the NFL.
Yeah.
He could be getting better.
Offensive line getting better. Kenny Pickett, second year. Takes a jump.
Yep.
The defense can carry you, though. Yep. The weapons can carry you. And I think that's going to be enough to get them to the playoffs.
Something that's just comforting about this Steelers team is anyone out there who's not a believer in Kenny Pickett, and to be honest with you, I don't even know enough about Kenny Pickett to tell you if I'm a big believer in him. Wasn't a guy who went to a big school. He came into the NFL, didn't play in any big primetime games or anything like that. He had that nice game against the Raiders last year, that little drive around on Christmas Eve or whatever that was.
Won me some money.
But Kenny Pickett is not a guy that we're used to coming in as a first-round pick, a quarterback, like a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud or someone like that we've seen a lot of exposure for. Something that's comforting, though, was what I was getting to is It's Mike Tomlin. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's in a great situation. I think that even if you're not a believer in Kenny Pickett, you're a believer in the system, you're a believer in this coaching staff, and you're a believer in this roster. And I can't see Kenny Pickett being bad. I
Bad enough to have them lose them games.
Right. I think that exactly. I think that he could be a Jimmy Garoppolo for this team.
100%.
But I also think that Kenny Pickett's a more talented player than Jimmy Garoppolo is. I think he's more athletic than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think he could make some big time throws.
Yeah, again, you talk about just being a game manager. He can do that. Yeah. Also, I'm going through the schedule. And I know it's a little bit overrated to look at the schedule. Not a difficult schedule.
Right.
Other than playing your division, which your division teams are very tough.
Right.
Those are your toughest games.
It means something. I mean, what did we say about the Eagles last year? Oh, my God, look how easy their schedule is. And they ended up winning 14 games. Granted, the Eagles had a phenomenal roster, but that schedule definitely helped them win that many games.
Yeah. So, I mean, look at it. It's a easier ride for Kenny Pickett in his second year as well.
And that means a lot in the AFC in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, to say you have an easier schedule in the AFC,
yeah,
outside of playing your division, which are always your toughest games, I feel like it's almost an advantage. Your division's so good. You're playing your tougher games, and you're playing tough games. Early on in the season, it's almost like playing a playoff game. You're playing really important games in November and December, and then as a team that could possibly get in as a wild card team, it makes you even more dangerous. Mm-hmm. So, all in on the Steelers. And finally, the Browns. You're not high on the Browns. Las Vegas loves the Browns. And I'm almost scared to have them in last place and not make the playoffs because of how much Vegas loves them. But I got the Browns at 9-8. Just way too many question marks for me.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. I don't believe in the quarterback. I mean, Deshaun Watson is a phenomenal quarterback over the course of his career, but not a lot of guys can come back from what he went through. And, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm rooting for the guy exactly. So I just don't see him, all right, full year, full off season, everything like that in the offseason program, boom, Deshaun Watson is the Deshaun Watson that we knew in Houston. And listen, he doesn't need to be Texans Deshaun Watson, but I still think that in this division, in this conference, he needs to play top 12 quarterback football. Yeah. And I don't know if he necessarily does that. I mean, we saw Jacoby Brissett do a great job playing basically middle of the pack quarterback play last year.
Maybe even less.
And the Browns didn't do anything. So I don't see in this division them climbing their way up.
Too many question marks. Obviously, you love Myles Garrett. He's a defensive player of the year candidate. The offensive line's great. They'll run the ball. Questions with the quarterback. Again, coming back from what he did. And I got questions with the coach, too, Kevin Stefanski. Is he legit?
Seems like it's been going downhill from him every year.
But just, again, in an AFC that's so difficult, it's tough for me with all these question marks to say this is going to be a playoff team. All right, let's move on here to the AFC West, which last season was projected to be, could we have 4 playoff teams from one division? Mm-hmm. And obviously that was not the case last season. We only had 2. But, JM, I think this season we're only going to have 1 in this division.
Wow.
I'll start it off here.
Wow.
I'll go Chiefs in first place. I had them at 13-4. In second, I had the Denver Broncos at 9-8. I had the Chargers in third at 9-8, and rounding out the division, the Raiders at 6-11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna argue a lot. First place, I have the Kansas City Chiefs at 13-4. Second place, Los Angeles Chargers 11-6.
Did I say San Diego?
Maybe. I say it all the time.
I say it all the time. I don't call
Third.
I'm going to call the Oakland Raiders the Oakland Raiders just now.
I liked the Chargers when they were in San Diego. But anyways.
You don't
first
like
place,
them in LA?
Dude, their fans are like a joke. First place, Kansas City Chiefs 13-4. Second place, Los Angeles Chargers 11-6.
Wow.
Third place, Denver Broncos 7-10. Fourth place, Las Vegas Raiders 6-11.
All right, so we agree on 2.
Yeah.
We're in 2 teams.
Yeah. I have let's just get right into the Broncos.
All right, yeah, no. Wait, hold on. We don't have to talk about the Chiefs, right? Like, they're legit.
Right, the Chiefs are legit. I mean, there's a little bit of a question marks for the wide receivers, but, who cares? They have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
They're going to be fine.
They're going to be good.
The only question mark I would have are the tackles, and the tackles will figure themselves out by October.
And the Chris Jones. Chris Jones holdout is a big deal.
Oh, yeah. They got to figure that out.
If he holds out till week 8, maybe they win 11 or 12 instead of 13.
As long as he's well rested and training and gets ready, it might be a good thing.
Yeah. Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
I mean, what are we doing here?
You know how much I've loved the Broncos, so much so that early on in the offseason, I was actually flirting with, possibly putting in a little ticket for them to win the AFC. Obviously, that's not happening. I don't see them winning, making the playoffs, excuse me. But listen, the defense is very good, right? I think they have the best corner in football, Pat Surtain, okay? Sorry to your boy who
I'm not going to argue with that. I actually agree with that.
I love the defense. Kept them in games last season when they weren't getting blown out. Kept them in games. Dealt with injuries too. The offensive line last year was abysmal, and they had a lot of guys get hurt. They added some guys. They're getting Garrett Bowles back.
Yeah, they get Mike McGlinchey.
I think the offensive line is going to be improved, and they'll be able to run the ball. And they have a nice little 1-2 punch when I think Javonte Williams is going to start the season. But either way, you get Samaje Perine there. I like the two-back system, especially with the running back coming off the ACL. Right, I think that's the reason why I love the Jets running game so much with Breece Hall coming off the ACL. You bring in Dalvin Cook. You have two backs there. I like the fact they have two backs there to handle the workload.
Right.
The receivers are a little bit of an issue. They've had Judy go down. They had Hamler go down.
Yep.
Patrick went down again.
Yep.
And there's not much
They're
depth
really
there.
thin. They're looking for wide receivers right now. They're kind of scrambling around looking for wide receivers.
But I like the traits there, and I know you're going to talk about Russ. I trust Sean
That's
Payton.
my problem.
I trust Sean Payton here.
I just don't think Russ is the Russ that we know anymore. Like, I think last year when you look at the tape, and listen, there were a lot of different things going on, but he was just missing guys. And I don't see Russell Wilson returning to Russ form, and this offense really I still think the offense sucks. I don't think the offensive line is good still, and these weapons are kind of just bleh to me. Jerry Jeudy's a guy who has never really lived up to the hype. He's already dealing with some injury problems. Cortland Sutton's a guy who's had a pretty good career. He's had some injury history. We talked about Tim Patrick went down. Javonte Williams coming off the ACL, and he basically blew up every CL in his knee, really nasty injury. And Samaje Perine is, a good third down back. But I think this offense just doesn't get done. And I think a major thing that nobody wants to talk about with this whole Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett saga is Sean Payton quite literally hedged his job with the Denver Broncos by saying, by the way, this is basically what he said, just in case we suck, just know that the last coach was so bad I couldn't clean it all up in 2023.
But
I think that's what Sean Payton did.
Listen, I don't think that's a good thing to go out and say to the media, right? Because I think it can almost be implied, and like if you're telling that to your bosses, like, and if they realize how bad it was, the owners realize how bad it was, then you don't have to say that to the media. I think your bosses will understand that, especially if you're telling them that too. I don't think going to the media was the best thing, but it's true. I mean, it is true. Like, you had one of the worst performances of all time from a head coach, and you have to clean this mess up. You have a quarterback who's making a ton of money on your roster. I don't mind personally, I don't mind what Peyton said. It makes for a very interesting Week 5 game in Denver.
Oh yeah,
but I really.
That's not my point. I'm not saying he was right or wrong to say it. I'm saying he said it, and why do I think he said it? Is because I think he's hedging his bet.
Well, you also have to remember this is a very difficult AFC.
Yes, which is why I think they're going to win 7 games.
You play in a division with the reigning Super Bowl champions, the best quarterback in the league.
Yep.
Also, I just want to say this about Russ. And sure, the tape might show that he was missing guys. Guys were open. It looked like Russ last season almost was like trying to win from the pocket and not use his legs as much, which is so stupid because what made him so great was him getting out of the pocket, using his feet, and extending plays.
Yep.
If he's able to do that this season, which Sean Payton has emphasized, he's lost weight, added muscle, he looks like he's in the best shape of his career. If he's just better, a little better than what he was, mixed with a really good defense, I don't think it's crazy to say they're going to win 9 games, 8 games, 9 games. I have them at 9. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say.
Do you have them as a playoff team?
I do not have them as a playoff team. They just missed. Okay. And again, I would have liked to put them there.
Oh, you said 1, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm very high on the Chargers. I actually had them winning this division at one point, and I said, all right, I'm kind of going nuts here. But I think that Justin Herbert, first of all, I think he's going to have a monster season. I think this is going to be the best year of his career. I think he's going to be a very strong MVP candidate. And I really like this offense. Like, I love the weapons, too.
I seemingly pick the Chargers every single year to, like, go far in the playoffs. Last year, they were my Super Bowl pick. The weapons, just can't trust them. Can't trust Keenan Allen or Mike Williams to stay healthy. From year to year, they're always nicked up. I like Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver from TCU. I like that addition for them. The weapons are legit, like you mentioned. The offensive line should be better as well. I love the Kellen Moore addition to be the OC. We've talked about that at length on this podcast. The defense is not that great.
No.
Not feeling the defense.
It's not. No.
And that's a little bit of a concern.
I agree, but I think it'll be good enough where they could skate by with this offense. Like, I don't think it's going to be bottom half. I think it'll be a better defense than the Dolphins. That'll be what my point is when we were talking about the Dolphins before. We talked similar teams, high-powered offenses. I think that this offense will be a little better than the Dolphins, and I think that the defense will be a little better than the Dolphins.
I'm guessing you got Herbert to be your MVP.
I'm not telling you that until we do our award predictions.
Okay. That's my guess. Maybe I saw your computer before, but that's my guess. No, I didn't. I really didn't. Okay. The Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I see a little upside with this team to maybe get 8 wins or something like that. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I also see this team as low as 5 wins. I don't. Me and you have talked so many times. We hate the coach. I mean, I don't like the coach at all. I think Garoppolo is going to really struggle in this system. I think that's a guy who needs a good system around him. We've never really seen him outside of a Bill Belichick or Kyle Shanahan system before. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a big deal for him. And the only thing that's really keeping this team alive is they got some really good star power. I mean, Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs, those are 3 really, really good football players.
Good left tackle.
But what are you talking about, the left tackle?
Good left tackle.
Yeah.
You know how I like my left tackles, like we mentioned last week, especially when we were talking about them. Yeah, listen, you mentioned it. I don't think we need to explain. I agree with you. Like, I could see, like, at their best, they're like 8, maybe 9 wins, but that's not going to happen. Yeah. The coach cannot bring them that far, and therefore,
I thought they should have drafted a quarterback this season. That's all I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah. I actually think in my mock I had them picking Anthony Richardson.
Wow. Interesting. All right, let's move on to the AFC South. Pretty boring division here. JM, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so first place, Jacksonville Jaguars, 11-6. Second place, Tennessee Titans, 7-10. Third place, Houston Texans, 5-12. And fourth place, competing for the number 1 pick, the Indianapolis Colts at 3-14.
That'll be interesting if the Colts are considering a quarterback there. Well, we could discuss in a minute.
If Anthony Richardson has an awful rookie season, then yeah. By the way, I mean, I don't see Anthony Richardson really succeeding this year. I don't think he's in any position to succeed, really, with how bad this team is. They're not setting the guy up for success.
No, they're definitely not. Okay, let's go. I've got the Jaguars at 10-7. I've got the Tennessee Titans at 8-9. I've got the Houston Texans 6-11, and the Indianapolis Colts 5-12.
Okay.
Thing with the Colts, I really like Shane Steichen. I really like the head coach. Yeah. I think he can make Richardson, into a really good player, like you mentioned. I mean, we'll get them out of the way. The situation's not great. There's a lot of. That's
the thing. I always hate rookie quarterbacks in stinky organizations, and that's what the Colts are right now.
Right away, everybody's starting. The Texans are starting. Stroud. Young is starting for the Panthers.
Mistake.
See, I don't think
Young's not a mistake. Richardson, I think, is the biggest mistake.
Richardson's a huge mistake.
Yep.
That cannot happen, and it's going to happen.
And I think keep an eye on the Jordan Love situation, because if Jordan Love comes out here and starts lighting up the league and turns out to be a really good quarterback, how many times do we have to look at this and be like, all right, listen, we're an NFL team. We're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, but we're going to take the Packers approach and not start this guy right away. Let him sit on the bench. Now, granted, not every quarterback gets the opportunity to sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback for 3 years.
Right.
But some of these guys just shouldn't be starters right away.
Yeah, it's definitely in this situation. We saw it with the Jets and Zach Wilson.
Yep.
there might have been other factors, but Wilson just being thrown into a fire in a not so great situation definitely hurt his development. So 100% I agree. I think the Texans is a different situation. I do think the Texans have something around them. I don't think they're the worst. I really don't think they're going to be that bad. I think that I could see them winning possibly like 7, even maybe 8 games, possibly the Texans.
Again, like the head coach. I like D'Amico Ryans.
I do. And they've signed some guys to that offensive line.
Yes. I'm not sold on C.J. Stroud, but when you get a quarterback in the top 3 and Will Anderson, that's a pretty damn good draft.
So I don't hate the Texans here. No. I really don't. I think in a couple of years, I think they're going to be competing in like 2 years. Seriously competing in 2 years.
I can see that.
I don't. Maybe one. Maybe if I would have said 1 year, it'd be a hot take. But
the Titans, if you just gave me a blank piece of paper and wrote 53 names down of the Titans roster,
how many you gotten?
I would really say like 5 wins, maybe 4. But we know this team's identity. We know how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is, where he, like we said the last time, he has that Mike Tomlin effect where he kind of just keeps your head above water and you're always competing.
When I go to, for an NFL Sunday, right, and I'm like, all right, who am I going to gamble on this weekend? Who am I betting against? If there's ever a game that I like the opposing team with the Titans, I actually tend to stay away from them.
Right.
Because that's how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is.
He keeps them in games.
He really does. They have the worst offensive line
worst offensive
in the
line
league.
of football. It's awful.
And yet I probably have to win 7 or 8 games.
And Derrick Henry will still somehow run for like 1,300 yards, which is insane. At least that, if he plays 18 games.
They're always prepared. They're always ready to go. I really like the coach. That's why I'm giving them a little bit of respect.
Yep.
I think 7, 8 wins with that roster, I think that's respect.
And we've seen Mike Tomlin do it before. We saw him go 12-5 and get the number 1 seed in the AFC with a depleted roster. That roster still had some good talent on it, and Ryan Tannehill was playing at a level that he's not playing at anymore in that year. But I can't. This is like you said, it's like a respect pick, giving them 7 wins for me.
Right. The first place team, the Jaguars. I was a little higher on them a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of pulled back. The defense is not very good. No. I mean, it's really not a good defense, and I'm not obsessed with this offensive line. Obviously, I love the coach. I love the quarterback. I think Lawrence has a chance to win MVP this season. That's how big of numbers I think he's going to put up. But I don't love this offensive line. I don't know how much. I mean, I think they'll run the ball enough just because I think the weapons on the outside are that dangerous where you'll just respect that. But they could be so much more dangerous if the defense was a little bit better, and it's not.
Agreed, and I think that's why. I think if the defense was great, I think that this is a 13-win team because Trevor Lawrence he took a huge leap in his second year. He basically had 2 different seasons in his second year as well. I mean, the second half of the year, he was an MVP candidate.
And by the way, we can argue that last season was actually his rookie season with how bad Urban Meyer was.
I also don't think people realize how good Calvin Ridley is. Like, a healthy Calvin Ridley is a top 7 receiver in the end. Like, he is disgusting at football.
You're going to find out how much I like Calvin Ridley.
Whoa.
Yeah. Anyway, I like ETN too. I really like Travis Etienne a lot. I know you're not fantasy.
So yeah, this is like my big fantasy take this year. Is I think ETN's the biggest bust in fantasy, but we talk about committees. I really like the 2 running backs there with Bigsby and Etienne. I think that's a nice complement to each other. I think Bigsby's going to have a big role in this offense.
All right, let's move it along to the NFC East, which is another tough division, right? You got the NFC champs in there. You've got a Dallas Cowboy team ready to go. The Giants just made the playoffs. And, what people, I think, believe is a sexy pick in the Commanders. I'll go first here. I've got the Cowboys at 13-4 and the 1 seed. I've got the Eagles at 10-7. I've got the New York Giants at 8-9 and the Commanders at 6-11.
First of all, I would like to give, if everybody watching this or listening could give Michael a nice round of applause because it takes balls to give your own team a losing record. And the Giants are no team that are the Giants of, 2020 where they're just going to suck. Like, the Giants made the playoffs last year. So that takes guts. Applause to you. I'll read off mine. First place, Eagles, 12-5. Second place, Dallas Cowboys 11-6, third place Giants 8-9, fourth place Commanders 7-10.
You know, with the Giants thing, I'm going to get a lot of hate from friends and other Giant fans.
Right. They'll call you spineless.
Right.
And,
Oh, you're a fake fan.
Right.
I'm trying to be objective as possible. And when I went through, the predictions for the last couple of weeks, I'm like, Giants are a playoff team. I kept telling myself that. And when I really went through everything and looked at it, I'm like, the Giants are not a playoff team.
Yeah.
And when you look at just the history of the way the NFL goes, right? There's always teams that made the playoffs the season before that don't make it the season after. There's always a lot of turnover. I think it's 6 teams, at least 4 and up to 6 on average.
Was it like 62% make the playoffs the next season, something like that?
Right. So a lot of teams that don't – listen, the Giants can be 8-9 this year and have a better team than they were last year.
Totally agree. That's
easily.
A great point. That's a great point.
Very easily. And by the way, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback's going to take another step forward. I think the defensive line is going to be very good.
Yeah.
They're going to play a tough schedule, a tough division.
Yep. I agree.
The problem is, Jam, I don't see them beating the Cowboys or the Eagles at least once. So if they do that, that could flip it. And okay, maybe they win 9-10 games.
Yeah.
But I don't see them beating one of those teams once.
Right. And I think that they have a lot of games out there where this, like you said, they're not. Did they come in last place the year before? The year before last, 2021, were they a last place team?
Yeah.
So they had the last place schedule last year. And now they don't. It's a third place schedule. It's not as getting much harder, but they're playing the AFC East. Tough.
Yeah.
And I went through their schedule, and that's how I got 8-9, and I agree. I mean, I don't see them beating teams like you're talking about, like the Cowboys or the Eagles, beating those teams more than once each at the most. And I don't even see them. I see them going basically 1-3 against the Eagles and the Cowboys.
I got them
0-4. So, like you said about them, where this might be a better team than last year's team, I think that this could be a good. If you're a Giants fan at the end of the year, if they're 8-9, but it's like a good 8-9, like you saw some steps from the quarterback, got a little better. He became more of a passer this year, and Darren Waller had a nice year, or Thibodeau got 10 sacks. Just you saw nice steps into the future. The record doesn't matter. Like, you could still be heading into the 2024 season and be saying, we can make some big splashes in the offseason and be a big-time contender next
What did we
year.
think the Giants were going to be last season? 5, 6, 7 wins? They make the playoffs, right? It was a surprising season. They are still building this roster. This is only the second year of Daboll and Shane, and they're doing a fantastic job, and the future is so bright for this team, especially if the quarterback's able to take the next steps, which I believe he's going to do. Right. Future's bright for this team. 8-9 and not making the playoffs is not the end of the world.
If they just scream like mid to me everywhere, that's why I have them with a mid record. The offense, I think, is going to be middle of the pack. The defense is going to be middle of the pack. It's an 8-win football team to me, 8 or 9 wins.
For me, it's not that. It's the depth. They have no depth.
That is true.
They have an injury anywhere, they're going to be in really – and obviously you're going to have injuries. They're going to be in terrible shape. Yep. That's why I don't have the Giants making the playoffs. Quickly, Cowboys. Love the Cowboys this year.
Yeah.
This is the Cowboy season. I think they have a top 5 defense this year. They're going to get so much pressure on the quarterback. Parsons is – Defensive Player of the Year. He's that good.
Right.
Offensive line, going to get Tyron Smith back. Tyler Smith, second year. Going to have a top 5 offensive line. The coach is a question for me.
Right.
But I trust this team enough.
One thing I want to talk about the Cowboys is this whole Trey Lance situation because, it happened, I think, the day after we recorded last week.
Yeah.
Let's stop making a big deal out of this, I think. I think it's, for people to say, oh, it's an insurance option for Dak and everything like that. First of all, even if it is an insurance option for Dak, like, good for them. Like, you never know what's going to happen. You can never have too much depth at any position. And it's a nice fresh start for the kid. It's a low-risk, high-reward kind of thing when it comes to Trey Lance. So, I think it's in their plans for Dak Prescott to be this team's franchise quarterback. And I think Dak's going to have a really nice year.
Ideally, Prescott's not used at all. I mean, excuse me.
Lance is not used at all. And by the way, if Dak Prescott goes down, Cooper Rush is going to the game.
100%.
Trey Lance is not coming into the game.
Of course not.
This is a reset. You just reset him back to factory settings, Trey Lance. Erase your memory of everything in San Francisco. We're molding you into the quarterback we want you to be.
Yeah. Philadelphia. I'm going to talk about Dallas more in a little bit. Philadelphia, I think, pulls back a lot. First of all, I think, you fade the team, the runner-up in the Super Bowl. That's a thing. You fade that team. I'm doing that. But there's many reasons why I think Philadelphia is taking a step back. Number one, losing Steichen and Gannon, not necessarily Gannon, but Steichen, really the offensive coordinator. We saw Sirianni in the first year, and sure, the team wasn't as talented as they were, but Nick Sirianni in his first year, was not the greatest coach. They got to the playoffs, but they weren't as efficient offensively. The offensive line was still great that season. Hurts obviously took a next step in 2022, but still, I don't know how efficient they're going to be with Sirianni and a new OC.
Yep.
The schedule's obviously tougher, right? And one thing, we're talking about injury, we're talking about luck. Insane injury luck last season.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
crazy.
is true. That is true. They did have very good injuries.
I don't know if that's going to happen again.
Third best, most healthiest team in the league or something like that. I have them winning the division. I have them at 12-5. It actually stacked up that they're the number 1 seed in the NFC for me, just by record. That's the best record in the NFC I'm giving out. But I see them taking a little bit of a step back, just in terms of they're not going to start the season 10-0 or whatever they did last year. But this roster, now listen, they lost a couple of pieces. They lost Jason Hargrave. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost some guys. They, patched it right back up, it seems like. I mean, the draft for them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal draft. Defensive side of the ball got stronger, it basically seems like. And I'm a massive believer in Jalen Hurts. I've said it time and time again. I think that the guy is just different. I think he is a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. I think he's going to be a Philadelphia legend when it's all said and done. And I really, really like the guy. And I see this team repeating 90% of their success this year.
Yeah, what's funny is Hurts had such big leads last season. I shouldn't say Hurts. The team had such big leads last season. Late in games, they just went in a pilot mode, right?
Yep.
Just went just easy. It was almost
That's
like
why,
Alabama football games where they just up by 50. It was crazy.
And Hurts was an MVP candidate, and you looked at his numbers passing wise, and you're like, these aren't crazy passing numbers. But you're like, oh, I realized he's playing 3 quarters basically every other play.
That's not going to happen this year.
Game.
That they are not going to be blowing
They're
teams out like that. And I want to see what it looks like. The Eagles playing late in game, tough games, multiple weeks in a row.
Yep.
They're going to go through a stretch in that schedule where it is brutal.
Yep.
It's going to be a complete 180 from what we saw from Philadelphia last year in terms of the toughness of these games. We'll see what happens. Can they answer the bell? The defensive line and offensive line, I think, will. They'll make the playoffs, but they pull back.
Yep.
Commies, very quickly. Ron Rivera has been through, I think, the most ever, with a head coach.
Yeah.
Owner change, terrible owner.
Right.
Name change. He battled cancer and beat cancer.
Right.
Quarterback carousel.
Right. The guy's been through the ringer. Yeah.
It's done after. He's fired after this year.
Really?
I mean, they're going to let him go. You have a new owner. He's going to want to bring in his own guy. I think it's done after this year. I think the only way he keeps his job is if they miraculously make the playoffs, and I just don't see that happening.
Right. They've been hyping up Sam Howell. Ron Rivera has been hyping up Sam Howell, and I could see him having a nice season. Maybe throwing together a 20-touchdown season or something like that. And maybe this offense having a little bit of an identity where Eric Bieniemy came in, and I think Eric Bieniemy, obviously, he's got a name to make for himself. He's had a lot of head coaching rumors over the years, and nobody ever seemed to come close to hiring the guy. And he went to Washington to prove something, to say, listen, I don't need Patrick Mahomes. I don't need Travis Kelce. I don't need Andy Reid. I don't need Tyreek Hill, all these guys that I've had in my tenure at Kansas City. I can make a name for myself. So they're going to be aggressive. They're going to play an aggressive style of offense. That could go very good or very bad. 7 wins for me. Weak NFC, good defense, good weapons on the offensive side. The roster's pretty good. The roster,
not a bad roster.
It's really not that bad for a team projected for a last place finish. So
listen, if he's able to do this with Sam Howell, hand him the keys to the city, dude.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Exactly.
You can end up making him the next head coach of the Commies if you want. All right, time for the NFC North, which is I think it's going to be, especially at the top, one of the more competitive divisions in the NFC.
Yep.
I don't know if I would go as far to say as the winner of this division can win the Super Bowl, but JM, we'll start with you. I think we're going to have the same champion here. What do we got?
First place, Detroit Lions, 10-7.
What?
Yes, Detroit Lions, 10-7. I went through the schedule and I was like, all right, 10-7.
Wow.
Lions, 10-7. Packers, second place, 10-7.
Okay.
Vikings, third, 7-10, and Bears, fourth, 5-12.
All right, we are basically the same. I've got the. Sorry, no, we're not. I have a different champion. I have the Packers at 9-8. I have the Lions at 9-8 as well. That'll get them in the playoffs. The Vikings at 7-10, and like you mentioned, the Chicago Bears 5-12.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. I'm gonna pick the Packers, like gambling wise, as a division pick. The odds are great. I have them winning 10 games, and this is obviously if teams are the same record, then one game could go a different way, and they win the division. I'm not even going to go into detail of why I think the Lions are going to win, or I think these teams are very similar to each other in terms of overall talent. Now, they have two different identities. The Lions, they're going to struggle on defense still. Yep. They didn't patch up the defense the way they should have. It could be slightly improved, but they're going to need to score a lot of points to win football games, and I think that they will. I mean, I've talked a lot about how I love Jared Goff. I think that he's a guy who, he is what he is. Like, he's a good pocket passer. He's got a nice arm. You put him in a good system, he could have a good year. He's very good at playing in a dome. He plays in a dome. He's got a lot of dome games this year. Like, he plays in a lot of domes this year, which is really good for Jared Goff, and it's really good for offenses in general. So, Jahmyr Gibbs was one of my favorite picks of the draft. I think he's going to be massive for this team. I see this team as a 10-win team, and they're going to get killed by Kansas City, by the way. They're not. They're going to get
That's a 3-4 point win for Kansas City.
They're going to get killed.
That's a
They're going to lose. They're going to lose. Final score is going to be 34-23.
The final score is like 27-23.
Okay. Anyways.
That might be a 2-star pick, by the way. 1-star pick. I like the Lions week 1.
I'll research it a little more and come back to you in a week.
Yeah.
Literally. So yeah, I mean, you have them 9-8, so we're pretty similar on them.
Yeah, and you mentioned it to me early on, like, oh, you love the darling, the sexy pick, and they kind of become that darling, sexy pick to win the division, and that doesn't necessarily happen all the time. They're a very public team here to win the division. I'm going to fade that, so I'm going to take the Packers. I'm going to take the better coach, the better defense. The offensive lines are very similar, both really good offensive lines, but just really taking the better coach and defense. With the Packers here, and you'll definitely get into them with a little bit more. Again, offensive line's good. They're going to run the ball. Two good running backs, and Aaron Jones great out of the backfield, catching the football. It's going to come down to Jordan Love. Now, we talked about Jordan Love last week. I think he plays the second easiest schedule ranked by PFF for a quarterback, which is very good for him. And I think he'll be in a position to succeed. I don't think he's going to, go crazy here. But, again, right. I think it'll be good enough in a, weak NFC, a pretty nice schedule. I think they'll be able to get 9 wins and win this division. Yeah, I think that the Packers are going to have a nice season. I think the defense is going to be good. And I don't think that Jordan Love needs to do a lot. Not at all. He could have the same – I'm not going to say this here. He could have a slightly worse season than Aaron Rodgers did last year, but I think that this team is going to be better all around him. I think that the coaching staff is good. I trust LaFleur as an offensive mind. I think that, like you said, they're going to be able to run the ball a lot. And – listen, the one thing, which is maybe why I'm a little hesitant to pick them as a division winner, the inexperience. I mean, everybody's inexperienced on this offense, basically. Yeah. Every single weapon, every single skill position player on this offense is inexperienced besides the running backs. But you have an experienced head coach. You have a good offensive line. They're in a good position to succeed. If there was ever going to be, young guys to or take that next step or just become what they are in the league, it's going to be in this sort of scenario. And again, you mentioned, concerns. I think not a concern at all. The opposite of a concern. Their defense was kind of dealt with injuries last year, a little unlucky last year. The defense is definitely improving. That's not going to be the case this year. They're going to be a lot better, and I'm betting on that defense. I'm digging that defense. So I got both of them making the playoffs. I got two teams coming out of the playoffs, going into the playoffs. Yeah, coming out of this division. As do I. 2 teams from the North. Making the playoffs. The Vikings, listen, man, that defense is going to be 32nd in the NFL. Yeah, Brian Flores is not going to be enough to save that defense. No, not at all. Offense, I love Jordan Addison. Almost picked him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's how much I like him. Right next to Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Jefferson, the best receiver in football last season. Going into the season, the best receiver as well. They're going to do a lot of good things. The O-line's good. Cousins is good. They will score points. They will be in shootouts, and they're going to lose a couple of those because of how bad that defense is.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We know that the Vikings are going to come back down to earth this year. Yeah. We were waiting for it to happen last year. Their luck just kept on going. It didn't seem to run out. It's running out this year. That whole one-score game record is not going to happen again. And on top of that, the team is not as good as it was last year. So 7-win team for me. Kirk's last year in Minnesota. He's gone after this year. They move on from the quarterback position. And rebuild. I mean, it just makes sense.
Rebuild.
And it makes sense to move on from Kirk.
I like the coach. I really do. And it's funny that we don't mention, like, we mentioned the Giants. Like, Dable would keep him in games. Dable's such a great coach. But O'Connell won 12 games last year.
Yeah.
And was really good with that offense. And yet we don't give him, like, the same benefit of the doubt. It's really funny. But I think he's a good coach, and I think he'll be there in the long run. And
anytime you're able to keep your team in a 33-0 game and they come back and win,
you're a pretty good coach.
You're a pretty good coach.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. Yeah. Let's have some fun with this one very quickly. The Bears 5-12. We are just resident Bears haters. We love hating on the Bears.
I've actually came around a little bit on Fields just because I think that he's got a better situation around him this year, and I think that he'll be slightly improved, and he's just so athletic on the ground, but I still am not a big believer in the guy as a passer.
Who's going to be their running back this year?
It should be Khalil Herbert, but they got a couple. They got Roshan Johnson and Donta Foreman. They got a couple guys.
Not in love with that backfield, obviously, with his ground game. It's not like that important, but still. The offensive line's still a little shaky. They spent a ton of money at the linebacker position, which if you ask GMs nowadays, if you're going to not spend at one position, it's going to be the linebacker position. They've spent a ton of money there, and they traded Roquan Smith away. It just the way they've been doing things,
and the defense is just overall was just bad last year, very bad.
The way they're doing things, I don't agree with. I'm not a fan of this team, this organization. Matt Eberflus seems like a great guy. Great defensive coordinator. Don't know how much I love him as a head coach.
What a time to be an offense in the NFC North last year. You had the 32nd, 31st, and 29th ranked defenses. Wow. I mean, that is historic, I feel like. But, yeah, I mean.
Lions were 32nd.
Lions were 32nd, and Minnesota was 31st.
They just got to improve a little bit, man.
Exactly.
Be in the
top.
They were the 20th ranked defense.
Yep.
You're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they will.
But to me, the Bears, like, I don't see their roster being able to take a leap and be that, 9-8 team with a.
They're not the worst of first team
breakout.
This year.
No, they're not.
Not even close. They'll be worse again. Okay, the NFC South. We're going to have a little disagreement here. I'll start. I've got the New Orleans Saints at 10-7. Sorry, 9-8. The Falcons at 8-9. The Panthers at 7-10, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 6-11.
All right, I have the Falcons at 10-7, the Saints at 9-8, the Panthers at 6-11, and the Buccaneers at 4-13.
Wow, no love for Baker there.
No love for Baker.
All right, so we obviously disagree at the top. I'm just going to say this, okay? First, this isn't like gambling-wise, but, I'm going to put some money. We're both going to put some money on some division winners, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and talk about football intelligently and tell you, you know what, Desmond Ridder is a guy that we should trust to win you a division. No matter how bad the division is, Desmond Ridder is not going to lead a team to a division title. Okay?
Wrong.
Let's take the better defense, the more experienced quarterback, honestly, better weapons overall in the New Orleans Saints. And I don't love the Saints. I dislike the head coach. I think they've been overrated for years. They were unlucky last year. The defense will be a little healthier. They're a more veteran team. Take this team. I feel like it's a slam dunk, easy pick. Let's go New Orleans Saints.
So, you're wrong. Desmond Ridder is going to lead a team to a division title. And I'll tell you why he's going to do it. Because he doesn't have to. Because, like I said about Jordan Love, even more with this team. You are looking at a rushing attack that is going to be Tennessee Titans-esque with Bijan Robinson, with Arthur Smith as the head coach, who was, by the way, the offensive coordinator for all those great Derrick Henry seasons. And they are going to be a team that runs it down your throat. They're going to be a team that runs some play action, and they're going to be a good defense. And I'll tell you what, we talked about the Vikings with the one-score games and how crazy that was. The Atlanta Falcons were not on the good side of luck in one-score games last year. 5-8. If that flips to a 7-6 from last year, that's a 10-win team, 9-win team, and I think
games they won last year.
I think they were a 7-win team, I believe, and I think that's what gets it done.
I can't believe in Desmond Ridder. Like I can't, and I understand.
The guy's got weapons, though.
No,
that's all I'll say.
He's got Drake London and a good
Pitts
running game.
And Bijan.
Again, can I see it from Pitts? Can I see the production?
Listen,
like we can talk about the potential.
His rookie year, we saw the production. He just didn't get in the end zone. That was the problem.
I can't trust this team. I cannot trust this team. Offensive line's great. I'm not going to deny. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the crap out of the ball.
This is the problem I have, though. What is to trust with the Saints, though? Like, this is not the Saints that we knew from the Drew Brees years. Like, it's a different head coach. You're Mr. Sean Payton. It's not Sean Payton anymore.
I don't like the coach.
It's a new quarterback, Derek Carr, who has never really been a super successful quarterback in his career. He's had some nice years. He's won maybe a playoff game.
That's all he needs to do.
What is to the defense for the Saints, sure. But a lot of question marks on the offense. I love Olave. Big Olave
I'm
guy.
a huge Chris Olave fan.
Outside of Olave, Kamara, huge question mark. Legal problems, age, injury. Michael Thomas,
back after 3 games.
Gigantic question mark on Michael Thomas in terms of injury and age.
I'm a huge Michael Thomas hater.
He's not even that old. He's just injured and runs slants all day.
Listen, Olave is a star wide receiver. I think he can take. Listen, we talked about Garrett Wilson taking those next steps to becoming, a superstar wide receiver. I think Olave has potential to do the same.
Yeah,
and I'm not
agreed.
And listen, I don't love Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr. I think it's enough. I think the defense is enough mixed with the offense just being average. I think can win them this division.
Right.
The rest of the division, I wanted to pick the Panthers very badly, but I can't trust this offensive line with a rookie quarterback. The offensive line looks terrible.
I really cooled off on them. They were like my sneaky division pick about a month ago, and then I was like, pump the brakes on that.
Yeah, your offensive line's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Like some defensive pieces, though. J.C. Horn's a nice player. Brian Burns, defensive end, very good player as well. I like some of their pieces on defense. I like, a couple of weapons on offense. I'm like the biggest DJ Chark fan on planet Earth.
Yeah, DJ Chark actually is pretty good.
He's
I think he's pretty underrated. And Jonathan Mingo, I think, is going to have a nice season.
Ole Miss, yes.
Adam Thielen is Adam Thielen. Like this is where his career is going to die.
He's like he'll be like a nice security, 700-yard guy for the rookie quarterback.
with 65 catches. Yeah, that'll be Adam.
But
and then Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about fantasy football here, but I actually think they're being a little overlooked in fantasy football because I think that this is going to be an offense that they just are going to let Baker sling it a little bit.
I think they're overlooked, period.
I think that I have them as a 4-13 team, so I don't think that they're going to be good. But I don't think this is just going to be Mike Evans has an awful season, Chris Godwin does nothing, Baker Mayfield sucks kind of thing. I think they're going to let Baker at least air it out a little bit and see what happens.
By the way, when we talk about the wins, it's give or take a win or two here. It's not an exact thing for me, at least when I give the record. But I had them at 6 wins. It would not shock me if they won 7 games. Mm-hmm. I hate the coach. I hate Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The weapons are still kind of there. The offensive line was terrible last year. It's going to be bad again.
Jensen's out.
But I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if they, snuck a couple of wins on some people. I got 6, maybe 7 wins for them. Okay.
I'm not going to argue with you about a 6-win versus 4-win season.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay. The NFC West. Can I start here? You mind if I start?
Go right ahead.
Okay. The San Francisco 49ers, if you look at their history, and I was listening to a podcast today actually about it, and it's so true. they never repeat success the way like other teams do. So like they'll have a really good year, like they'll be the 1 or 2 seed, and then the next season there's a big drop off. They might make the playoffs still, but there's a significant drop off. They go under their win total. They don't win the division. And we're coming off of a season that was very interesting for them. They got a lot of noise coming out of that quarterback room. It's going to be very awkward. They don't, and you know how high I was on them about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Completely off of the San Francisco 49ers. I got the Seahawks winning the division 10-7. I also have the Niners at 10-7, just losing the division. The Rams at 6-11, and the Cardinals at 3-14.
Okay. Seattle Seahawks are winning this division.
Yeah, I agree.
Seahawks. No, you don't.
Yeah, I just said that.
The Niners.
Oh, then I mix it up. I have the Seahawks winning the division.
Okay. Because I'm looking at your computer.
Yeah,
and
no,
like,
it's
a little jumbled up.
yeah.
All right.
Seahawks win the division.
Seahawks 11-6, Niners 10-7, Rams 5-12, Cardinals winning the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, which we talked about and posted a TikTok about it. 2-15.
He, by the way, he should deny playing there. He should not.
Oh yeah. He should pull an Eli.
Yeah, he should have.
He's ridiculous.
Make another $10 million in college next
He's
year.
actually ridiculous.
Why not? Make another $10 million in college
No, I
next
agree.
year. Even though they probably have the number 1 pick the year after.
Exactly. So you talked about San Fran, so I'll talk about Seattle. Geno Smith believer right here. And, you know, we've seen quarterbacks come and go and have some decent years, but have we ever really seen something like Geno where I guess Nick Foles is the closest thing I could compare it to, possibly,
But
where
still,
a guy spends his career as a backup and then all of a sudden, 10 years into his career has a great season. Like,
but it wasn't even like a great, like, Foles was just
good run.
Yeah, good run.
Right.
It was a different situation.
So, to me, like, when I talked about Russ and I talked about the whole Seahawks and Broncos situations, I'm a believer in this whole Seattle quarterback situation. And you look at Geno and you say, okay, he threw 30 touchdowns last year. It wasn't just some throw some check downs and guys take it to the house. Like, he threw some beautiful balls. Two balls he threw last year were some of the best throws I've seen made by a quarterback the whole season last year. Just absolutely beautiful throws. The weapons are there. The weapons are really there. Yeah. I mean, Metcalf, Lockett's a guy who's always been overlooked his whole career. He's like Mr. Consistent. He just always seems to end up with 1,000-something yards. And he's a big-time deep threat. And Smith and Jigba is a guy who, to get him at 16 or 17 where they got him, that's a big deal. I mean, that is a very, very nice steal for the Seahawks. So I'm a believer in the offense, and I think that the defense is going to be good enough where they win this division.
The problem I have, and the reason why I'm not higher on them to go on a real run to the Super Bowl, is because I don't think they have enough on their front seven. Like, I wish they would have drafted a guy like Jalen Carter.
Right.
And listen, they draft Weatherspoon. And we really talked about the West last week. Their back end of that defense can be very good.
Yes.
But, again, I would have liked to see them have a better front seven. Still really like this team. You mentioned the weapons. Like, everything's there for him. The offensive line's not great, but with the weapons they have and the system that he's in, I think it'll be enough again for a second season. Yep. Yeah, I think his numbers might be a little bit worse.
Yep.
And that's nothing crazy, but yeah, like, I believe in Geno Smith. I believe that he can win this division. And again, I do have them winning the division. I mix it up. I have them both teams at 10-7. I have the Seahawks winning it out though with tiebreakers. Believer in Seattle.
I think that, the 49ers have proven this wrong in the past, but I'm going to take the bet of the best quarterback in the division wins the division. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, sure, maybe a fully healthy Matt Stafford is better than Geno Smith, but the Rams are just a dumpster fire in terms of the rest of the roster besides Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford.
And again, with the 49ers, like, we talk about injury luck, they've had a lot of guys banged up, and they're on the older side.
Yep.
And you mentioned the offensive line. I did a deep dive on that offensive line. The interior guard position for a team that's going to be relying on running the ball, and I'm sure they'll be able to run the ball just fine. But for a team relying on running the ball to have that many question marks on your offensive line, that's concerning to me.
Really bad. So
I still think they'll be good. I still think they'll make the playoffs. Purdy's a big question mark. Do we see Darnold at some point?
Yeah.
Who the hell knows? But it's, not feeling the Niners as much as I was just a few weeks ago.
Yep. And, I mean, we touched on the Rams, the Cardinals. Tanking.
Please.
But, so obviously tanking.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the NFL is going to do about it because I know they obviously are not supportive of tanking, but how obvious is it that, oh, Colt McCoy, you were going to start for us? Yeah, we just cut you.
You're good.
Oh, Isaiah Simmons, we don't really want to pay it. Giants, here's a 7th. Just give us a 7th round pick. Just here you go.
It's crazy. And again, I just
DeAndre Hopkins,
it.
we'll cut you. Yeah, whatever.
Just don't go there, Caleb. Like, why would you want that situation? Why? A defensive
they're
head
not gonna want
coach.
him. They're not going to do it.
What?
They're going to want to just roll with Kyler. They're the freaking Cardinals. Listen, I'm a Jets fan. I'm not going to sit here and start bashing organizations. We've had some pretty bad history.
No, you can bash the Cardinals.
But the Cardinals are, they really make a strong case for the worst organization in football.
Maybe even sports right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's would like to have a word, but.
You know what? The Oakland A's admit that they're bad, and they literally try to be bad.
Yeah.
There's a difference. A little bit of a difference. Like, they tried to do this, and they're succeeding at it.
Right.
Give them credit.
So they are succeeding.
Right. Like, last year, Cardinals tried to win.
Right.
And they were that bad.
Right.
Anyway, all right. You want to read off the seeds pretty quickly before we go to the playoffs?
So, starting in the AFC, my number 1 seed, the Baltimore Ravens. Then, 2 seed, Kansas City Chiefs. 3 seed, New York Jets. 4 seed, Jacksonville Jaguars. My 3 wild card teams. First wild card, Cincinnati Bengals. Second wild card, Buffalo Bills. Third wild card, Los Angeles Chargers.
All righty. AFC, I got the Kansas City Chiefs the 1, the Ravens as the 2, the Dolphins as the 3, the Jaguars as the 4. The wild card teams are the Cincinnati Bengals with 5, the Jets as the 6th seed, and the Steelers coming in as the 7th seed.
So the Bills are missing the playoffs.
Bills missed the playoffs.
Wow. You heard it here first. That's a
It's a
scorching hot take.
It's a bold take.
Wow.
And I feel good about it. I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills, but I'm not a believer this year.
All right. NFC. So number 1 seed, again, the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 seed, Seattle Seahawks. 3 seed, Detroit Lions. 4 seed, Atlanta Falcons. Then my 3 wild cards. Number 1 wild card, Dallas Cowboys. Number 2 wild card, Green Bay Packers. And number 3 wild card, the San Francisco 49ers.
And my my NFC seeds. The 1 seed is the Cowboys. The 2 is the Seahawks. The 3 is the Packers. The 4 is the Saints. The 5 seed in the first wild card is the Eagles. The 6th seed is the Niners. And the 7th seed, the Detroit Lions.
All right.
Very excited. All right. So, yeah. What were you most surprised with? That's the one question I want to ask. Like, when you went through the schedules and was like, before we ended a little bit here, what do you think you were most surprised with?
The thing that I love about this whole schedule predictor thing is I go into it thinking, all right, I'm going to have this team win that division.
Yeah.
I went into it saying Cowboys are going to win the East. And I was going through it, and I know that the Eagles don't have any it's not a cheesecake schedule. There's no layup.
Right.
But the way I had it working out is, I split it between the teams, as home away. I gave one team a win each. And it just ended up where I was like, the Eagles are winning this division. I was like, let me go back. Let me see if I could give the Cowboys another win or give the Eagles another loss. And I was looking through it, and I was like, no, I'm not just going to play around with it for no reason. Like, this is how I think it's going to go, and that's how it's going to go.
I played around a little bit. I had some
You played around a little bit.
I had some agendas I wanted to fill, but the one thing that surprised me, and it just goes back to the division we talked about, the NFC West. I went through it like a second time, redoing it, just I want to check my work. And again, I had the Niners losing 7 games, and I was like,
I'll tell you off the top of my head, I remember I had the Niners losing that game to Cincinnati.
Yes. I had them losing week 1. They're going to lose week 1 to the Steelers.
Yeah, I had them losing that game as well.
That's the 3-star, by the way. That's the 3-star. I tell you right now. Love that game in Pittsburgh. All right, JM, it's that time. We'll skip right to the conference championship games. We'll give the Final Four, the Super Bowl matchup, and then the Super Bowl champion. So start with you. What is your Final Four teams here?
Final Four, I have the Baltimore Ravens and my New York Jets.
Okay.
In the Final Four on the AFC side. And on the NFC side, I have the Philadelphia Eagles returning. I gave them the 1 seed. I got them winning that home game in the divisional round. And I got the Seahawks getting to the Final Four.
Very nice.
Yep.
All right, I got the Ravens and the Chiefs in the final 2 in the AFC. And on the NFC side, I have the Dallas Cowboys and your Seattle Seahawks there.
My Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
It's gonna get a little weird right now. All right.
Yeah, very weird.
Listen. First of all, it's hard to predict the Super Bowl every single year. For some reason, it feels even harder this year. But I'm making some noise, and I looked into my crystal ball, and I said, all right, show me the Super Bowl in, where is it, Las Vegas this year?
Vegas,
2024.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I will be there because my New York Jets will be playing in the Super Bowl. And now listen, I know everybody out there is, the Jet fan going on about it. All I'm saying is this has happened before. I'm going to keep talking about Matt Stafford and the Rams. I'm going to keep talking about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I am even as bold to be saying that I think that this is the best situation that any of those three quarterbacks has walked into.
Yeah.
It's the best defense that any of those teams have had. It's probably the best number one wide receiver that any team has ever had. Now, Cooper Kupp is better than Garrett Wilson, but we didn't know. We were not as high on Cooper Kupp as we were on Garrett Wilson going into that season. You can't tell me that.
No.
So who knows what the ceiling is for Garrett Wilson? Do I think he's going to win the freaking Triple Crown? No. But I think the sky's the limit for the guy. Anyways, coming out of the NFC, it's not the Eagles. It's another bird. It's the Seattle Seahawks. You have Geno Smith going up against his former team in the New York Jets. Jets Seahawks is the Super Bowl in 2024.
That would be something. Geno Smith gets to the Super Bowl,
Right.
plays the Jets who has Aaron Rodgers. I would love to see that. All right, my Super Bowl here, it will be the Ravens who beat the Chiefs, and the Dallas, it pains me to say it, the Dallas Cowboys beating the Seahawks and getting to the Super Bowl. And I've got
That's an exciting Super Bowl.
And I've got the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl. Now, I just want to say this. You talk about Dallas. I talked about it before. Their defense, I think a top 5 defense this upcoming season. If it's going to be any year in the NFC, because again, we talked about the NFC being wide open. There's about 3 to 4 teams that I could possibly see, even having a chance in the NFC just getting to the Super Bowl.
Right.
We mentioned them. We talked about them. Seattle, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Dallas is one of them. If it's going to be any year for Dallas, I think it's going to be this year.
Right.
And I think it's just setting up perfectly for Dallas and 2 very scrutinized quarterbacks in the media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lamar
100%.
Jackson,
100%.
Dak Prescott. And I get in arguments all the time, even this past week with friends about Dak Prescott. Prescott's good enough.
Yeah,
you give him the right situation, which this is, right?
Yep.
This is probably his best situation he's been in since being in the NFL. You give him the right situation, he's capable of getting your team to the Super Bowl. I think the picks last season were an anomaly. That's not going to happen again. Believer in Dallas. And, we talked about Baltimore at length before.
Yeah.
I think this is Baltimore's year.
Yeah, he's in a great situation, Dak. I agree. And, I love the Ravens. I have them as the number 1 seed in the NFL.
Yeah.
In the AFC. Listen, if I put the Jets in the Super Bowl, I'm not going to pick them to lose the Super Bowl.
Right.
I have the Jets winning the Super Bowl. But also, I don't. You might never see me again if the Jets win the Super Bowl. I don't know what would happen to me.
No, I know. A lot of Jet fans have been saying that to me.
But,
too.
yeah. And listen, just to go back to the Seahawks, I see the path with this team. I see the mix of old talent and young talent. I really do think, like you said about Dak, I think Geno is that type of quarterback too, where he's enough. I think that if Geno Smith is the quarterback that we saw last year, he is plenty enough. Geno Smith played, top 6, top 7 NFL quarterback play last year? If he does the same thing, or if he even does a little bit less, if he's a top 10 quarterback, top 12 quarterback, I think that I don't have him playing at that level because they wouldn't make the Super Bowl if he's playing top 12. They make the playoffs. I think he's going to be like the 7th best quarterback in the NFL this year, Gino. I really think he's going to have a great season.
Because the Rams won a Super Bowl with Stafford. I'm not bashing Stafford, but that's where Stafford's ranked, basically. Bottom of the top 10 when he's at his best.
Right.
The Bucks and Brady. Brady had a great year that year. Brady was 43? How old was he?
Yep.
Very old.
Yep.
So, you don't need the Mahomes every year and the Hurts and, the Burrows. You don't need those guys every season to win a Super Bowl. If your roster is
Nick
good.
Foles. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, those are our Super Bowls. Ravens, Cowboys, and Jets, Seahawks. I got the Ravens. You got the Jets. Let's move on here to our awards before we wrap up the prediction show. You want to start MVP in the National Football League?
Yeah, sure. Last-minute decision. Extremely last-minute decision. Was going back and forth.
Did I guess it right before?
No, it's
When I
not
said
Herbert.
Herbert?
Herbert's the one I took it off.
Wow. Okay. Big
It's
brain.
probably it's the same one as yours. I'm going Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I have him as a number 1 seed. We could talk nonstop about Todd Monken and the way that this offense is going to be, and they are going to let Lamar play football. They are going to let Lamar air it out. They're going to let him run all over the place. He's going to put up the numbers. And listen, it doesn't take a lot for Lamar to put up MVP numbers, because when you have an 1,100, 1,000 yard, whatever many yards he's going to have on the ground, when you have that as your base level, you don't need to throw for 5,000 yards. He could have a 3,600 yard season, throw for 28 to 30 touchdowns. Yeah. He doesn't even need 35. If he's got 10 rushing touchdowns on the ground, I don't know how he'd have rushing touchdowns through the air. But if he has 10 rushing touchdowns and he has 30 passing touchdowns, that could be an MVP season for him.
Yeah, you hit everything right there with Lamar. I love Lamar. The leg should be like a weapon, like his main. And I think with Monken, they're going to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And the leg is just going to be like an added thing here,
Yeah.
I think, for this season. All right, Offensive Player of the Year. I kind of teased it before. I got Calvin Ridley winning the Offensive Player of the Year.
I love it.
I'm trying to be a little different here, because the rest of them are a little chalky. Listen, I think this offense, we mentioned it before, that passing game is going to be elite with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence taking another step forward, putting himself into that class of Herbert and Burrow and those young guys. I truly believe Lawrence will do that, and Ridley is going to be the leading force in that room. Look what he did for Christian Kirk last season. Christian Kirk had a fantastic year, and I think he's going to have another really good year. And Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, he got Evan Ingram paid. So I think Calvin Ridley, coming off the suspension, he's we would consider him one of the best route runners in the sport.
100%.
Before he got hurt,
very
before he was
explosive.
suspended.
Very tough after the catch as well.
Love Ridley there.
My Offensive Player of the Year, I got Jamar Chase. I think he is. I talked about it when we did our top 10 receiver rankings. I think I had him 6. I had him a little low for where some other people would like me to have him. But I said, listen, he had a great rookie season last year. Had a couple injuries. If he's out there for 18 games this year, he is going to go crazy. I think that this guy could easily put up 1,600 yards and have a 12 touchdown season, even better than that. Who knows what's going to happen with him? So I'm big on Jamar Chase this year. I'm still big on the AFC North. I'm big on the Bengals. As you're going to see, I'm going to have a lot of AFC North in these predictions. I think that Jamar Chase, the sky is the absolute limit for this guy. I think
making my number 1 pick really difficult now.
Maybe my number 1 pick.
Wow. Yo.
Just saying. Me and Merlo in fantasy draft order negotiations, possibly. I feel like he's kind of cooling off on me here. But anyways.
It was a chat.
We'll see. Defensive Player of the Year.
You want to go?
Yeah. I hinted at it. I said a lot of AFC North. This is Myles Garrett's going to get it this year.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a guy who's going to break the sack record, TJ Watt came so close. Myles Garrett can do it. Like, he is a freaking nut job on the field. He's gigantic. He's unblockable.
Scary.
And a guy who, when you look at the number 1 overall pick and you say, all right, if you're going to go defense, you better hit here. Myles Garrett is a guy who hit.
He's been that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually considered him. I also considered TJ Watt, but I'm going Parsons. I'm going to fit that. Cowboys going to have that fantastic season mold here. Parsons is a guy that could break the record too. He's just so dynamic, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. If there's going to be anybody, it's disrespectful to compare anybody to Lawrence Taylor, but if you were ever going to do it, it might be this guy. Right. Like, he's not Lawrence Taylor, but he definitely plays like him.
He could play multiple positions. Like, he's kind of what the Cardinals hoped Isaiah Simmons was going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe not safety, but he could play a lot.
Parsons is a special player, and I got him. All right, Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're both going to go Bijan here, right?
Yeah, it's
obvious.
He's just going to get the ball a ton. I wanted to do Zay Flowers to go along with the Lamar MVP pick.
I forgot about that.
I wanted to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that Herbert's going to have a great year. Like I said, he was like my other MVP pick. So Quentin Johnson could be a guy that goes up there, but Bijan Robinson is going to be like a Saquon Barkley rookie season type of guy.
I mentioned Addison, too. I really like Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Minnesota, but it's going to be
a lot of
Bijan
talented
here.
rookies on offense this year. I think there's going to be a really good class in terms of weapons.
Yeah. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Anderson would have been, and that's the pick, would have been the first overall pick 2 years ago in the Hutchinson Sauce draft. He would have been the first overall pick. And last season in college with Alabama, he was the main focus for offensive coordinators and head coaches. Like, they had to put 2 guys on him at once. And his stats dropped. He wasn't as productive as he was in his sophomore year of college.
Right.
He still gets picked with the 3rd overall pick with the Texans. He's a gold jacket player. Yeah. I will put my reputation on the fact that Will Anderson is a Hall of Fame player. Okay? Yep. Love Will Anderson. He's the defensive rookie of the year.
He's scary, and you're right. He would have been the number 1 pick, no doubt. My defensive rookie of the year, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. How the hell did they get this guy? I'm sure you're very upset about it. Jalen Carter. I mean, the guy is just freaking gigantic, and he is going to be an absolute menace for that defense. I think he's going to step in right away and be a big, big impact player for them. And we're seeing in today's NFL, it seems like defensive tackles are getting more and more respect year after year now, where we still love our edge rushers. We love guys coming off the edge against the tackles, but having a guy who could disrupt the interior of that line is huge nowadays.
Yeah, he's scary. He's a fantastic player. The fact that he fell there is an absolute joke. We can. How many names can we go through?
Yeah.
Bears for trading down with them.
Yep.
Falcons for taking the most irrelevant position in the league. The Seahawks could have had him. They took a.
Yeah, the Seahawks pick was a bit sketchy.
I mean, please, Jesus Christ. Anyway. We're in the books there. Put it in the books, as Howie Rose likes to say. Yep. And if I click that right there, put it in the books.
Crazy. All right.
There we go. That'll do it for
third one. Number 3. Can you believe that already? It's the 3rd NFL prediction show that we've done.
No way.
Yep. Think about it. We started the podcast in 2021 in March. So we did it August 2021, August 2022, and this is August 2023.
So that was our 3rd baseball one?
Yeah. Our first ever episode was an MLB prediction show.
That's crazy. Well...
And we were talking about the Niners trading up for Trey Lance, and now this episode's about a little bit about the Niners trading Trey Lance.
Well, how about
how
time has flies, and yes, a full circle moment. Good stuff.
Next week, can't wait for the betting segments.
Well, football's back. We'll have the betting segments, everything. Check out our social media. Like and subscribe our YouTube page.
Yep.
Rate us on the podcast if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Give us some love here. We're working hard, and we appreciate all the support.